Well, hello. It's 10 o'clock, 10:01 on a Monday. And I'm back with relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons. Since I'm going to be painting a lot of detail, we'll just find out how relaxing it's going to be. Continuing to work on these Tashir'anun minifigs. And I've got, some things that need to be done. I need to wash the leather on the gloves and the quivers here. I need to paint the feathers on the arrows here, a little bit there, and some up here. Need to paint, I need to paint the bow, right? And the swords and the arrow tips, those sorts of things. But the thing that's going to be most challenging, explain this in a bit. The thing that's going to be most challenging is the silver detail on the minifigs. The armor has a lot of spots that need to be, embellished, I should say, embellished in silver. I had an example here before, but now I don't, of one of the Tashir'anun and how it would look. So I'm going to have little bitty brushes today and be painting some stuff. I'm not quite sure what order. I think I'm going to try to paint the arrow. Yeah, I need to paint the feathers on the arrows first, because if I get the green onto the brown, here, then I have to touch it up with the brown. And if I've already washed the brown to make it look like real leather, then it'll be a problem. So it's best to paint those before putting the wash on, because they're adjacent to the brown in many places. So I guess I'll do that first. Get the 3 archer guys out here. The bows are going to be painted pretty much the same way as the wood on our dungeon tiles. So that will be like this flat earth color, and then washed with a wash. So I'm going to be doing a lot of sniffling and probably some sneezing today. I have apparently allergies that have been going on forever and ever and ever. So I decided to see an allergist, and I think this is kind of ironic. So you go into an allergist because you've got allergies, and their instructions say, stop all of your medications that you're using for your allergies for at least a week. I guess they want to see you're symptomatic. Well, that's succeeding. Okay. So I'm halfway through, I'm in the 4th day. I'm halfway through the not taking my meds, which I wasn't sure if the meds were ever doing any good or not. How can you tell when you're taking them? Because you don't know what it's like unless you don't. Well, now I'm not. And I'm pretty sure that they were helping, because Anyway, to have a drinking game every time I say anyway. Okay. Well, this is really sad. I've only used up 5 minutes of the stream. I have been known to take half an hour of talking about things before I actually get started. But I just did that, and now what? Now I probably should start painting. The advice I received was that the feathers should be green to fit into the Tashir'anun green and silver theme. But if it's the same green as everything else, then they don't show. So I'm going to use a light green. There says that, and use that to paint the feathers. And I'm going to use a bitty brush. I'm going to try this one. This has a really nice fine point on it. Usually I would use this. And I keep reminding myself during the stream that I need to buy another one because this is getting worn out. The bristles are disappearing. Okay. They just break off over time. I don't know if I do it, if I abuse it or what, but it's got a very, very fine point now. It's like 3 bristles. But I don't order more because I clean up after the stream and then don't remember it. Okay, well, let's get this stirred up. I'll get my head magnifiers out. I'm going to be wearing those a lot today because that's how I see things close up. I'm just remembering when I was doing Warhammer figures. And we got those way, way back a long time ago, like 20 years ago or something, which is about the last time I did this kind of thing, that I had, instead of head magnifiers, I had one of these circular magnifying glasses, big. It was like about this big around. It had a fluorescent tube on it. Back in the day when there were fluorescent tubes. So I had this circular fluorescent tube with a magnifying glass in the middle. And that gave me a lot of light and I could work under it. The downside of that was that I kept bumping the brushes into the underside of it. I don't get that with these head magnifiers, but that worked pretty well. I bet it's still laying around here in the basement somewhere. Sometimes things don't move on. They just stay. They will stay forever. And it's probably one of those things. You know how basements can get if you've got one? Things just, where should we put this? I'll just throw it in the basement. Should we we'll save it. We might need it later. Just put it in the basement. And then eventually the basement looks like a hoarder's hovel. And because it kind of is. And this basement's kind of gotten that way. And since I've been building models, it's really like a model is in a box, but like with the Apollo thing, each section of it is in its own box because I have to store it somewhere and not get it dusty. And that's how I've been doing it. So now there's piles of boxes. Or the submarine, I had 3 submarine kits to build one submarine. Well, the submarine is built, but I still have the 3 boxes, one of which is empty and 2 of which still have parts in them. I think I offered, if anybody on the stream wants to build a Renwall cutaway submarine model, where the side folds down and you can see all the inside detail. I've got the 2 kits that are left have enough parts to build one. I know that, but some of the parts have been painted already and they need to be unpainted. Some of them are a little bit distorted or warped, and they need to be de-warped. So it's not a perfect kit. It would take a fair amount of work, but it would be free. The alternative is to try to sell them on eBay or a place like that, a resale shop. I don't know if anybody would buy them or not. Okay. Well, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll try to do that. They're too, even in their current state, they're really too good to just throw away because these are models from the 1960s. They're authentic vintage. Authentically vintage, and so I'm going to try this brush. I'll see. and they're pretty. You don't see them very often, and they're pretty expensive now. So maybe if it was sold cheaply, someone would like it. There, make a mess already. As long as I keep the paint only on the very tip, this will be okay. Be careful to not let it run up on it, otherwise it will be a problem. I was not streaming Wednesday and Thursday of last week because here in the States, last week Thursday was this thing called Thanksgiving. And I did a whole monologue about Thanksgiving last week, Monday, about how it started and what it's all about. So unless for some reason somebody asks for a repeat of that, I'm not going to repeat it. But it's a pretty big deal, just in terms of family getting together and eating too much stuff. The traditional meal, which is supposed to be like representative of what these pilgrims eating, is turkey and potatoes and cranberry sauce. So we can be pretty sure that in 1621, that if there was such a feast, as opposed to just a meal that somehow got associated with the harvest feast, which is really what Thanksgiving is. It's a variation on ancient harvest feasts. Looking at where I'm going to be putting silver. Yeah, so the Thanksgiving thing is really kind of a harvest feast, but we can be quite sure that there weren't any potatoes, because potatoes were, even though native to the Americas, well, actually, I'll take that back, but we can be pretty sure, but not quite sure, that there weren't potatoes because they were South American. And even though there were huge trade networks, moving stuff all over the place, it's unlikely that it included potatoes because they weren't needed. It is very likely that the meal included cranberries. This arrow is broken, and I'm not going to try to fix it. I'll just break it off. And it might have included turkey, because turkey was a native wild bird, not the ones that have, 20 plus pounds and it's all white meat, breast meat. like they are now here, at least in the States. It wouldn't be like that. They would have been wild turkeys, which were still really big birds. They really are. Wild turkeys are very large birds, but they're not specifically bred to have copious amounts of the most, the parts of the turkey that we most like to eat. So there might have been turkey. It's probably likely that there was venison, white-tailed deer. Okay. That was a pretty typical meat of the area. And then, but venison isn't a real popular meat now. It just never caught on as the Thanksgiving meals are deer meat. Somehow we find eating a heavily modified, through years of different breeding, they're not really genetically modified in the sense of, laboratory gene modification, but selective breeding. We seem to find that eating a bird that's been selectively bred like that is something that we will do, but eating a deer, not so much. So that's why I was gone on Wednesday and Friday of last week. Wednesday was getting ready for the Thanksgiving event. Friday was recovering from it. This thing. I am back this week, all 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. X marks the spot. I wasn't on the X. I moved the bench over to the right for some reason. And I've been painting these feathers and you haven't been able to see it. That's that doesn't happen very often, but often enough that being off camera is kind of a feature of this stream. I could tell you, just here I'm off camera and you can see my hands and I can tell you I'm doing something. I can tell you I'm painting the feathers on the model and you wouldn't know if I was lying or not. It'd just be, I could just have my hand there, not doing anything at all. At the pace my painting goes, it probably wouldn't be too terribly much different than actually being on camera. So yeah, we did the turkey and the mashed potatoes. It probably would have been squash and corn. We didn't have corn. Sometimes we eat corn, but that we didn't do that. But the feast would have had maybe turkey, more likely venison, squash of some sort, and corn. And cranberries. Almost certainly cranberries. They were really important food back then because cranberries are exceptionally rich in vitamin C, which you usually associate with citrus fruit, but there aren't any orange groves in Massachusetts. And there certainly weren't any then. So there wasn't any imported citrus. So the cranberries were a really important source of that vitamin, and other vitamins. They're very good, concentrated in good stuffed fruit. This again. This is going to be kind of a recurring thing here because of going to an allergist later this week. And they said, don't take any of your meds until after the appointment so that we can see you feeling sick, I guess. I don't know. The hand is wrapped around the bow. I was kind of planning on not doing this, but I will. This paint is to paint the bow. At some point in the near future, I will actually be starting to paint the silver detail. But I wanted to put the wash on the brown to make it look more like leather, which is why I painted the feathers on the arrows, because that touches the brown. But this does also. And it, in case I need to touch up, in case I need to do touching up, it's good to get this done. I'm going to use a slightly larger brush because the bow actually, here, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to use this teeny brush again, this teeny brush this time, to paint around the hands and around the arrow, where there's a boundary between two different colors. And then use this bigger brush, bigger in the sense of more bristles, to paint the rest of the bow because of the surface area involved. That somewhere, I'll put it there where I can knock it over easily later. I don't know if this is teeny enough. We'll find out. Similar to the color for the glove. The situation here with these browns is that the leather brown that we use is called leather brown. When it's put on, doesn't look much like leather. But then when it's washed with an umber wash, it looks very leathery. And then this color, which is called flat earth, I always have to chuckle whenever flat earth, okay? Some folks out there will probably say, that's not a laughing matter. We believe the earth is flat. That's fine if you believe that. I'm open-minded. But this is just paint, it's not earth. Anyway, it said anyway. By itself, it's not a very interesting color. But when it's washed with this stuff called smoky ink, it looks beautiful. I mean, a really nice reddish brown wood color. That's really nice. Okay, so the glove around which I am painting is washed with one color, and the bow, which I am painting now on screen, Hopefully the result will be pretty nice. I have to move the camera to the right or my bench to the left because I am kind of twisted here on the bench the way this is set up now. This be like if I like really set this up like a studio, so that there was more studio like lighting. The materials I'm working with weren't paper towels and pieces of cardboard. I don't know. I'm thinking if I did that, this would lose its rustic. It would lose its rustic, authentic. That's the word, authentic um, look. This is an authentic experience of what it's like doing minifigs and modeling in a basement. I'm guessing that's what for a lot of people, that's their reality, right? If I were to do modeling, I would just get a workbench and set it up in the basement and maybe get some tube lighting. We've got some above my head here. They used to be fluorescent tubes because that's what there was, and now they're LED tubes. Big modern upgrade here. There's quite a few of them, and it's quite bright. It's very very nice and bright. As my eyes get older, along with the rest of me, pretty bright needs to be extremely bright. That's why the supplemental lighting on the head magnifier here is nice to have. Get additional lighting right on the thing I'm trying to paint. Just I'm using the paint in the bottle cap so I don't waste it. But it's starting to it's just this big surface, so it starts to dry out. And when it gets gummy like this, paint isn't completely dry. It pulls it off. I've seen that there. It's underneath it. So I'm about ready to give that up. We've got about here a third one. So I have this brush out. I'm going to just paint. Well, let me finish this one first with paint from the bottle. Speaking of schedules, which I sort of was indirectly by explaining why I wasn't painting on Wednesday and Wednesday. Great, I'm going to become incoherent already. Usually that doesn't happen until like the last half hour of the stream. The allergy reaction here that's going on is maybe It's causing like an oxygen deprivation or something. I don't know. This off. This one. I'm going to do this backward from the other ones. I'm going to paint the stuff with the big brush first and then get the little brush out and finish it off. Because this brush is already here full of paint and there's no reason I can't do it that way. I guess I was talking about, if I were working in a studio instead of a workbench with concession to the show, as opposed to me just doing this, is the ring light camera. This would be just as if I were down here building models because I didn't have anything else to do. And it would be a hobby that I would, indulge in. Pretty much how this would be set up is I would, do things on the cheap. The concession to not being cheap is these head magnifiers. And I would recommend that if one were making an investment in modeling gear, stuff that wasn't absolutely essential to build models, but sure made it easier and better quality results. Something like this that I'm wearing on my head, or one of the good old-fashioned circular lights with the magnifying lens in the middle of it. Unless you've got really good eyes, and you young'uns out there probably do. I had to say it that way. I don't really talk like that. It just seemed like a thing to say. Some people out there might have just really good close-up vision, in which case you wouldn't need something like this. But even 20 years ago, when I was doing those Warcraft figures, I found that magnifying glass with the fluorescent ring around it was actually really helpful. There's a lot of things on here that could be highlighted in silver. These guys are going to be a challenge. Okay, I got the bows done. It looks like the only thing that needs to be base coated that isn't are the blades on the melee weapons and the arrowheads, of which this one doesn't have one. I might just paint a little bit on there anyway to give the impression of it. Yes, I'm getting to the point where I can't avoid painting the silver anymore. Just have to decide what brush I'm going to use. I could use what's left of this one, or this one with the really, that's good. Just knock it over. guess I'm going to I want to let these dry so I don't mess them up. To start the silver with the melee guys. I've got a whole lot of metallic paints. Most of them were made for airbrushing and applying to airplanes. Okay, so they're all different shades of aluminum. And then I've got some others that are more like these that are less dilute. They're not um, they're not thinned out for airbrushing. Um, they tend to clump a little bit more, but they also tend not to run as much. So I think I'm going to just use chainmail silver, which is an old, just a real standby of metallic paint. Oh, I could just use silver. I wonder if there's more, if I have any more of this. It feels like it's starting to like not be much in the bottle. Not that I need a lot, but I should probably check to see if I've got some extras. The problem when it gets down near the bottom is that there's less solvent and more pigment, and so it gets even thicker. These models have a huge amount of embellishment on their armor, and just huge. And if I were to paint it all silver, I'm just going to start on it and see how it goes. See if this paint is even usable. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try this brush. I'm not sure if the point is fine enough or not. We'll find out. But I know for sure this to be silvered. Chest. There's little rivets on here as well. And I'm not going to silver those. There, now there's silver. So you can see how that kind of changes the appearance. I'm going to outline the shoulder armor. It's like almost like fancy scroll work on the inside of the shoulder here. Be too much. Well, this paint is working okay, but it's drying on the tip of the brush really quickly, which is not surprising because there's not very much there. And so it's going to, meet the air. So it's going to evaporate. To have to periodically wipe off the tip of the brush here. So a little thing in the middle, I'm going to paint that silver. Just discovering here as I'm painting quite how the paint is going to behave for me. It's floppy there, but it's actually okay, because otherwise it'd be too small to show up on camera. Why did I get paint on the brush that much? Wow. I have to end up using the airplane paints. To use this, but it's already skinning up, and I want to thin it, because then that would miss the point of not having it too thin. Drying on the brush way too quickly. I was kind of afraid this would happen. This is drying on the tip of the brush before I can. That happened because I had my brush at the wrong angle, and I got it all over the top of the shoulder. That was not good. I'm going to have to clean that up. So I try a little bit longer with this paint, but it's getting to the point where it's just way more work dealing with paint that's drying on the tip of the brush. Not applying very well. The other stuff, like I said, has this tendency to run because it's quite thin. This stuff is sort of failing. Um, yeah, I'm going to switch paints, but first I need to fix that blob I made there. I'm going to try to do that right away. Oh, hi. Thanks for joining in today. On these Tashir'anun guys. Greenback over where I hit, not a greenback like in US money, but green returned to the color that isn't supposed to be silver. There. Yeah, I was trying this chainmail silver, but I was concerned that it would dry too quickly and become gummy, build up on the tip of the paintbrush, and that's what's happening. So I'm going to switch to one of the airplane colors, pure aluminium. You don't want it. Yeah, I want it pretty bright. I'm just going to use regular aluminium if I can find it. It's made in Europe, so it's aluminium instead of aluminum. And hopefully this will work. I'll be able to control it in the brush so it doesn't just slop all over everything. Here, painting this silver detail is going to take a long time because I'm really very slow and tedious. Don't have to be tedious when one is slow, but I managed to combine slow and tedious. At least that's the nice. That's the effect I give. Everything is way. I don't understand. Everything is just way over to the side today. Or I'll stick that in front of my face. I'm not going to miss that particularly, so that'll be okay. Down on this thing. Great. It's on the brush, but it's not coming off on. There we go. This minifig is just like super fine detail. This was printed on our very own rosin 3D printer. It really is. Just little rivet points and all sorts of clever embellishment. Me, it's just like how much of this gets painted silver. Because the more that gets painted silver, the more time it's going to take to get this done. You know, I guess you've got time and I've got time. I mean, what else? What else is there to do on a Monday between 10 and 1, other than do relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons and either listen to it or watch it? I can't think of anything better to do than what I'm doing right now, and what if you're watching this or listening to it, what you're doing. It's the perfect Monday thing. Something. Okay, well this is going okay so far. It's just going to be a while because there's just a lot of this detail that should be silvered. I think it's working okay. Get one done, and I have to get the other two to look the same. I'll let this one hang around so I can use it as a reference to see what I painted and what I didn't. Not sure what to do with the helm. There's like this ridge around it, raised areas around the face. I think we don't know. If I painted the ridge around it, I think it would just look dumb. I mean, it's like, oh, you got a ring around your head. Painting the raised area around the face is probably what I should do. Probably I'll do it now because I just put a dot of paint on it. It would be a lot easier to just not bother with it. Yeah, there's a spot there. I should touch that up. I didn't get the brush in the right orientation for what I was trying to do there. Things are I need to remember to get the green paint out. Just touch that up a little bit. Okay, I think it looks okay. I'll just do this bit here. These are straps. I'm going to say those are leather, and it would be too much to do those, so I'm not going to. Just too much silver, and then it loses its sense of armorness. They're supposed to be kind of fancy, but not like overwhelmingly so. Back to the edges of the armor here. Probably this bit here. And then I should tell myself to be a little careful and not just smash the brush into places where I don't want silver paint. Yeah. It's the paint that's sitting in the well there in the palette. I need to stir that up. Separate. I'm going to stir it with this brush though. So I'm going to have to get a little toothpick or something. The metal flakes are settling to the bottom. Or what to paint, I guess it is a little bit across the top here. Straps on the front, so I'm not going to on the back. Toothpick. Here's some. There. Let's see. Boots. Definitely the top rim of the boot. These boots are way too fancy. It just doesn't make sense why they would be so fancy. There's just striations and stripy stuff on them. It's like whoever these guys are, they're really into fancy footwear. I'm not sure how much of this I want to do. I think I need to do the center part though. There's just this little wiggly thing here. And just do the wiggly thing. And maybe, yeah, why not? We'll do the cross on the crossover laces or whatever they are on the front here. Okay, that's fancy enough. Let's see if I can do the other one. Yeah, it's on the brush. Let's come off of the brush. I went quiet there as I'm trying to figure out the painting scheme for these things. Okay. Thinking that looks pretty decent. Okay, in terms of embellishment. I'm not going to do too much on the back. It's just not set up for that, really. I guess I'm going to try to do the edges of the helm. There's a lot of edge all around the face, the ears, and the eyes. Finish this. Probably I'm going to come back to them. There's just some spots where the silver went too far, especially in the back of the helm here. I need to touch that up with the green. I'll do that after the silver dries. I'd say this is, I got it on the gray. Okay. I'm going to forget to touch up the gray, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to clean this off. Get the gray paint out. Just a tiny touch. Just a tiny little bit of a spot that needs to be not silver. This is the paint that almost gone. Yeah, there's green touch-up spots, but I'm going to wait and then do them all at once. Not all at once. I mean, I can't do them all at once. That would mean I'd have to have like 6 hands or something. Hi. Say hi. Thanks for dropping in. And have a good dinner. Thanks all. I really appreciate your support. And thanks for coming back after me being gone last week. Oh, speaking of being gone, what a surprise. I'm going to be gone again next week for a family thing. Guess I've said that several times about this stream, is that as we get into the holiday season, there's going to be all sorts of travel here and there and everywhere else. And next week is going to be that. So I'm going to be away all of next week. And then back on the 17th or something. So just as a heads up, in case you're wondering why I'm not streaming, it's going to be because I'm not streaming. Hi, Enforcer. Oh, you're still having to wait. The last thing you said, Enforcer, was that you were going on a job interview. How did that go? I think that was all the way last Monday. So is it that your DM just isn't ready yet, or the other players? Back at where I was painting. Yeah, it was a whole week ago. And yeah, you were maybe getting ready to play again, but they're waiting for your DM and the other players. Took my Thanksgiving holiday here. I think the silver embellishment is, well, it's certainly one way to fill the time on the stream, isn't it? It's just taking a long time to put little dots of paint on. Oh, hi. There we go. Yeah, I know. It really does get that way. You know, that had to have been really, really scary for everybody, though, to be caught up in a storm like that and getting injured and then recovering. You know, just get back to normal is easy to say, I guess, but really hard to do. Yeah, and the holiday season it gets a little unpredictable. Like I have to be gone next week for a family trip. And a month ago, that wasn't going to be a thing. But then a week ago, or a week and a half ago, then it became a thing. And so, kind of short notice travel. But I can understand, because of that, if other people are in those situations, that stuff comes up and you can't get together and do some of the other things you want to. Yeah, it really does become busy this time of the year. I know, like the Thanksgiving weekend when I had to be off Wednesday and Friday for the holiday on Thursday. There's just things seem to take a lot of time lately. Maybe maybe as I'm growing older, it just feels like it's taking longer. Part of it is just it does take longer. I move slower, not just in painting, which is clearly slow, but in other things too. Simple stuff like going shopping or things like that. You have to budget more time for them than used to. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Sorry for the exclamation there. Um, I lost the lenses on my head magnifier. I bumped them against the light up here. I think so. They were really different shows. The difference between DS9 and the Next Generation. I really liked some of the characters on TNG. They were really, and then they showed up. The best ones continued on DS9, which was kind of cool. But the storyline on DS9, the TN, TNG was just kind of episodic. There were relatively few things that went on for more than one episode, whereas Deep Space Nine was just a continuing story. So it was a really different feel. Yeah, it went on a really long time. I was we've been watching a lot of Star Trek too, and just to get away from everything else that's going on all the time. And surprised at how many seasons there were. I didn't, when it was on, it was just on. It didn't seem like that, like it was going on for so long, but it just really did. Okay, this bent arm here is presenting a challenge. Do my best here to figure out where the edges of everything are. Well, we've been watching a lot of Star Trek, and I guess it's okay to editorialize on the stream, isn't it? Enterprise, the very first, well, it wasn't the first one, it was about the first one. It was not very good. We watched like 2 seasons of it, and it was no, just that's enough. I'm not going to watch anymore. Kind of hard to describe. It was like every story episode was the same. The acting wasn't all that good. I'm not quite sure what they were going for in that series, but it wasn't great. So there's that. We started to watch Voyager, which was kind of rough at the beginning. It's like, but I guess, they were introducing new characters, and Janeway was way overplaying everything, making all sorts of speeches to the camera and stuff. And it's like, nah, don't need to listen to speeches. Just get on with figuring out how to get home. Anyway, I did anyway again. I hadn't done that in a while. But Voyager isn't too bad if you can get through like the first season or two. Then it gets better. I don't know. Do you get streaming? No, it was hard to get into it at the beginning. I guess, I'd say if you're going to watch Voyager, just skip the first 2 seasons. Just that. I'm sure there's people out there who would, oh, good, Star Trek fans, let's do that. Vociferously disagree. Let's have some controversy in the painting stream here. That would be fun. But I'd say, just start in season 3. Family members have been watching it, and I haven't really been. They're introducing the characters and the dynamics of it all, and it seemed kind of heavy-handed and sort of overacted. Here, starting to need a deep cleaning. Sorry, I was concentrating on what I was doing here. Did that really happen? I'm going to have to watch the end. That's just amazing. I didn't realize that because I just gave up on it. That really, okay. That's really amazing because there are some other family members who are like Star Trek uh, geniuses. They know about everything. I never heard that. Well, maybe that would explain why it wasn't all that good because it was just a holodeck simulation. They could blame the flaws on the computer. Really, I really I need to check that out. That's just amazing if that's the case. It's hilarious. I mean, it really is. It's just it's very funny and well, actually, it might make it more tolerable to know that that's what it was. Well, that was I don't know how I did that. Just to get the brush very much where I didn't want it. Okay, yeah, that didn't work. So this boot is officially a mess. I messed it up. I have to get back and see if I can put enough green paint on there to fix it. I wouldn't, yeah, maybe it spoiled it for you, but it's just really not that good. How should I say? Really, just like I said in some of Voyager, that it seems like it's overacted and too much speechifying, that kind of thing. Enterprise is like that. The it's almost in some ways it's almost like the same episode over and over again. Whoever is the captain of the original Enterprise, and I can't remember. I wasn't paying that much attention. Just it seems like in every episode, but it might only be in every other episode, just gets beat up. Okay. It's like they had bloody nose makeup laying around and they needed to use it. So it's just getting pounded on just to do it, I guess. That seems to be sometimes all his character does, is he just gets into fistfights and usually doesn't come out that well. This one's not too bad, except for the boots are messed up. Let's see what I can do about the face. Yeah, I mean, that might have been, they might have done that on purpose to just try to salvage the show. So what are you thinking of for this character that you're going to be designing? Here, I'm just suddenly finding that I'm having a hard time here getting the paint where I want it. The first one went okay, but this one's got a lot of oops spots. Just getting thicker and just getting cold. I don't know, but it just wasn't going that well. Well, it's not awful, but it's not didn't come out too bad like it too. That I'll do green touch up later. Oh, laundry. That's fun. So see you in a bit. Thanks for joining in so far. And when you come back, you can let me know how the things are going for you. Okay, I'm going to change tactics and do the helm first instead of last because it just wasn't, it didn't go well the last one. No, come back and fix that later. Not quite sure what's happening here, but seems to be a little messier than it had been before. Paid more attention to this or something. Just for some reason, just Which hasn't changed. But the paint is just going more where I don't want it than it had been before. Just big blobs, just a real mess. Ugh. So I'm thinking, before I do the archers, I'm going to clean these up because this needs cleaning up. The paint isn't any thinner. That's not the issue. It just seems to be spreading more. Take a breath here and slow down a little bit. So Enforcer was on, and we were talking a little bit about Star Trek, DS9, which, some people like DS9 better than the Next Generation. Some people like TNG better. And they're quite different from each other. Just in terms of being episodic versus extended storyline. And even though there's some crossover in terms of characters, they're quite different that way too. But I really like the characters in TNG they introduced. The thing was that TNG introduced a lot of them, and some of the better ones continued. So we see our first Ferengi. Worf becomes a significant character, which was cool. So I think, DS9 owes a lot in some ways to TNG, but it changed how the story went. It changed it to being an ongoing story as opposed to just here's an episode and here's another episode kind of thing. I thought that was pretty good. And it had some really memorable moments. Most disturbing kiss in history of media. Kai Wynn and Gul Dukat. Tell me that anybody who watched that didn't cringe. even a little bit. It's like, oh, really? Oh, no, don't. Oh. And then they did. So that, that was an epic moment in Star Trek ism. So what I'm hoping is that these spots where I got too much silver paint, that I can just put green over that and it won't look metallic. I don't want it to look metallic under the green, but I also just hope it covers it up enough so that the little demarcation line is a little bit better, less sloppy. Oh, I was doing okay. And I got the silver paint onto the gray, probably in a spot where it shows. Okay, after I'm done with these boots, I'm definitely going to take a little bit of a stretch because I'm hunched over here. This is my detail painting posture. This is not good posture. I would recommend, if you're doing this kind of thing, that you not hunch over like I am here. I don't know what you can do instead. I don't have an answer. If I did, I would be doing it. But definitely don't be doing it like this, because then your back is going to be achy for the next hour after the stream, and you'll be grumpy to the people around you. Oh my, I am really making a mess of everything. Good thing this is right near the end of these boots, because if I keep doing this for much longer, it's going to take a long time to clean it up. Well, the first thing to fix is that gray, because otherwise I'll forget about it. And I don't want to do that. I did look at it. Sorry, I'll get back to you in just a minute after I hopefully fix this, but not quite disaster. Sugarmancy is one of the cleverest developments. Yeah, TNG did have Ferengi. They were introduced, and they were I don't know, they were exaggerated gnome-like kind of things, which was, I don't know, I didn't really like that part. They're just moving around and wiggling all the time, kind of weird. Okay, I'm going to go back and do some touching up with this now, with the green, trying to get the spots that just are clearly messed up. And there became more and more of them as I went along. So go back and just look them over. I'm going to use the teeniest brush, I think. What did you miss? What you missed was me getting silver paint all over everything, making a mess of stuff, and having to go back with this green paint and try to touch it up. I don't know. Maybe I need to take a little bit of a not a break so much as a stretch. Excuse me. Well, okay, I'm gonna have to explain that again. At the very beginning of the stream, I explained that I apparently have allergies. And I've been using some over-the-counter meds, and I decided to see an allergist because they've been going on for way too long. And then the instructions from the allergist say, stop taking all of your allergy meds before the appointment, which I don't know why. It just struck me as being a little bit odd that they're supposed to help get rid of allergies, not set up conditions for it to be worse. And I had been wondering, whether or not the allergy meds were making a difference, because how can you tell when you're taking them, right? When you're taking them, and you can't tell if they're mattering or not. But now that I stopped taking them, I can say that they were definitely making a difference. And I'm not happy because I have to go another 3.5 days of not taking them before my appointment. And I'm not sure, you'll see on Wednesday. That should be interesting. See on Wednesday how that's going. But in the meantime, I get to snuffle and sneeze and stuff like that. That was an example there. The changeling lizard, yes, that did come through. Excuse me. Yeah. And they'll say, "Oh, yeah, you have allergies to things. What am I going to do about it? I don't know. Avoid those things, maybe." Are they complaining about stuff that isn't happening? I need to fix a glove. Fix this leather glove where I got silver on it before I wash it. It becomes unfixable. What was that? Sometimes it's just one little dot of paint. Oh, I'm sure we have pollen, leaf mold. What else is in the air around here sometimes? And so some allergists will say, "Oh yeah, you have allergies to things." Great. Now what? Well, then what? You don't know then what. But between now and then, I have to not take allergy meds, just even the over-the-counter stuff. And you have to live with me sniffling and snuffling. Okay, well, the sky is now better than it was. So what's next? This one isn't quite. This must have been the first one I did. It's not quite so bad as some of the others. That last one I did was really a mess. It's going to take a while to fix. Yeah, um, you could send that. You might want to send it in like 2 parts or something, because sometimes the long ones don't always come through. Okay, I'm really going to apologize. I'm getting like super snuffly right now, and I've got a little more than an hour to go. So this could be. I don't want to say it's going to be gross, but anyway, you'll hear me sniffling and snuffling. At least the green seems to be covering up the silver. Okay. I haven't looked at the archers yet. I don't know what kind of silvery detail they're going to have. No, that's really good. It all came through fine. Oh, that's really interesting. So I have to ask, are you personally interested in mathematics and physics? That's it's an interesting backstory for a D&D or a character in a role-playing game. And is it really? Did you want to talk about the similarities and differences between those two approaches, those two pathways? I find it kind of interesting how maybe there's more overlap there than it seems like. To put more silver in the toes here. This isn't looking quite as bad as I thought it would look when I was doing it. Still good. There's still a mess. It's interesting. So why do you? What's the hate part of the love-hate relationship? Do that first. I would think it makes sense that a wizard would be really interested in those kinds of things, including the math. Um, the changeling part, that's kind of intriguing. On how that would work. Well, there's another gray spot there. Damn it. Sorry. Didn't mean to go PG-13 there, but it's just a spot that I didn't see before that I'm very annoyed about. It I did a lot of it in high school and college too, and then gave up on it. But math is, we think of it more as arithmetic, and people think of arithmetic as math, but real math is actually more like learning a language. I mean, it really is, because of just learning a new alphabet, even is a big challenging part of it. And then, like the grammar, the syntax, and everything. It is, and I'm wondering if that's true. If people who, I'm just wondering out loud, there's a similarity in learning. People who are good at learning math and languages. Because there's so many, there's a lot of overlap, a lot of similarity. Well, that's really true about critical thinking. So did you do different languages in college too? I'm just curious if you did, whether you notice any kind of similarity with learning math and language. It's just something I was speculating about. Well, people talk about the overlap of math and music, which I have to say I had no musical talent ever. And so it's not something I developed at all. I tried to play music when I was a kid and just didn't it didn't catch for me. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's I couldn't get my fingers to translate the notes onto the instrument. That's the way I experienced it. Yeah, that's pretty cool though. History and mythology. There's a lot of overlap there too, I think. In a lot of ways, our history is mythologized. It has to be because it's extremely complicated. And in order to make it understandable and acceptable, we simplify, and to simplify is to mythologize. That's the way it seems to me, anyway. The important thing is to have the myths be as close to, reality as possible. And it's always a struggle. Because you don't know what it was unless you were there experiencing what was that. So just a piece of white stuff dripped into the paint. There's a gray spot. That did come through. The one about you spent your youth preparing to be a student. If that's the one you just sent, that did come through. So your character. No, that's the backstory for your character, of course. Is preparing to go into the college. Sorry, my eyes aren't focusing well today. I have to look up and kind of very carefully. It's difficult for me to read the screen right now. Maybe because I've been focusing using these head magnifiers. So if I'm delayed in responding, that's making a good story. Almost more than just the character development, but the whole backstory of preparing, the reason why do you want to go to the college, Lower Hold College? I mean, you're describing what you did to get ready. It's a really nice artist story. I like that. Um, okay, I'm going to take a break from silver here for a minute. Put my glasses on so I can read Enforcer's posts better. Oh, that's better. Huh, look at that. I can see it. Mm-hmm. I'd like to hear the speech one. Okay, that one's real good about the speech, because it's more than just I'm using words, but the power of words. I have to say that I'm kind of personally fascinated and appalled at the power of words, because I'm just going to say these things, and you can disagree with them all you want, or agree if you want. I don't know. That would be a weird thing to agree. Reading, no, that's fine. I enjoy your character development. Um, the life sciences one, it just, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that would be what you'd be looking at, and that you would sort of edge over from biology to necromancy because of life forces and trying to understand it and expand it. Excuse me. In terms of D&D characters, though, the one that focuses on the power of words is unusual, and that makes it interesting. I have to say that D&D characters usually don't, or whichever one you actually end up playing, if it's not D&D, usually don't focus on something like the power of languages. The power of words. It's like, okay, there's magic, but that's not the same as. I mean, the power of words is much bigger than just, oh, I make a cantrip or something and magic happens, and that's all fine. But just looking at the power of words themselves, in and of themselves, outside the context even of, for this one. Well, the math and the language both really stand out as being, they make a lot of sense in the context of the development of the characters. Okay. And they're much more expansive than is typical in just a D&D setting, or in your case, yeah, Strixhaven book. I think both of those are pretty fascinating, because they're just more expansive in what they're covering than is typical. Okay. I mean, wizards and sorcerers and folks who use words to do things are not usually focusing on, oh, words are powerful. Why? Why is that? I think both of those are really pretty fascinating. Doing now, in case you're wondering, is I'm putting some umber wash on the brown of the, I'm just not going to use these, just pick them up, on the brown of the gloves and the quivers, because once it's, this wash makes it look really leathery, and it brings out the finger detail a little bit too. And I can do this without the head magnifier, which is good because I was getting tired of wearing it. So these are really small features, so it's kind of hard to tell, especially with the camera the way it is. But if you were to see them up next to each other, before and after, with the wash and without the wash, it really makes a big difference. We were really pleasantly surprised when we discovered doing this years ago when we first started painting minifigs, and we painted leather brown and it just didn't look leathery. And then we did this to it and it was, oh, that looks like leather. Very nice. These are in a way. So the melee guys, it's just the gloves. On the archers, it's the gloves and the quiver. You move to art and math for yourself or for your characters or both? Okay. You think, I'm not so sure. I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't want to get into a disagreement. But, there's a kind of sense that, oh, yeah, math is kind of fixed and it would be Vulcanish, kind of emotionless. But I'm not sure that that's the case. If you're looking at math as more of like learning a language, okay, your math-based learning character could actually be fairly volatile. If you know what I mean, there could be a good deal of emotion involved in using, math as as expression. Just something to think about. That the mathematics-based one could be really very much not emotionless and logical. In fact, even logic, the Vulcan kind of thing says logic is not emotional, but I don't think that that's necessarily the case. It's just an alternative, something to think about. Oh, yeah, that could very well be. Prideful could very well be. Okay, what I'm hoping for on the quiver is there's a lot of detail printed on here, is that if I put the wash on it fairly heavily, that I don't want to mess around with silver, really, but I think if I can get this into the recesses, then it will look like it's embossed leather. Kind of like, like that. That might work. I'm going to put it face down so it stays in those recesses. Pictures have a lot of silver on their armor as well, and their poses are a little bit more challenging. Yeah, the other schools could work. I'd like to hear you explore the language one more. I find that just kind of a fascinating thing to move just beyond incantations, just being wizardy or magic-y, to just the power of words themselves. It's like, why do they have power? Because when you think about it, all words are yeah, all words are is they're vibrations in the air. Okay, just that's all it is. It's hardly even substantial. Unless even if someone is shouting, you can't really feel it unless you're right up close to them. Physically, I mean, the words have very little physical presence, and yet they make people do things. They enforce things. They can be as powerful as physical force. Why? So you're a kid on a playground and someone's taunting you. Like, why? Like, it's just noise. It's just insubstantial movements, vibrations in the air. And yet they can have an extremely powerful effect, especially emotional effect. And I wondered that several times off and on, and then just stopped wondering because I got onto something else like making dinner or whatever. Right. I'm sorry, but yeah, those things get in the way. But an exploration of why do words make any difference at all? Much less actually affecting physical things, leading to emotional outbursts and reactions, getting people to do things. It's if when I think about it, sometimes it just strikes me as being absurd that these vibrational things, these insubstantial vibrational things, can have any impact at all, and yet they do. Yeah, music has the same effect, right? In many ways, like language. Sounds themselves, just sounds have can lead to consequences. That's why when you were talking about that one of the schools would be based on speech, it started getting me thinking about this thing I used to think about once before, which is, how do words work? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to wash the bows. But I'm really close to being done now with the melee guys. I just need to I just need to paint the blades, and then the bases. I'll do all the bases at once when it's done. I'm going to paint the blades kind of a dark aluminum color, and the same thing with the arrow points. This one. If the character's a changeling, how would That's a good question about how if you either math or if you go the math way or if you go the language way, how that impacts the character of a changeling. It might have a significant impact, especially since language could determine how the changeling changes. That makes sense? Not really. It's kind of nonsensical, but it might. Well, why is this there? It wasn't covering. When I come back Wednesday, I need to bundle up some. It's gotten very cold outside, and really cold, or here anyway. In Fahrenheit terms, it's 20 some degrees, which in centigrade terms is well below zero, because freezing is 32. Sniffing is getting worse. I am going to continue to apologize for the snuffling and sniffling and occasional sneezing. I'm hoping that the allergist says you can go back to using your medication, however effective or ineffective it might have been, because it is at least marginally better than not using it. Oh, yeah. Huh. It is cold for right now. It would be very balmy here. We were down to like 20, maybe even below 20 last night. Whatever water there is out there is frozen. There's a little snow on the ground. And it's very pretty, but it's unpleasant being out in it. And the basement where I am working, so yeah, the furnace is right here, right? You can't hear it because of the filter on the microphone. The furnace is right here, but the furnace is sending heat all over the house, but not here. An argument, well, it's true. That's an interesting thing. They all are important. They all have influence. Okay, they all inform. So why one versus another? Why would one choose one versus another? And why would there be an argument about which was best or which was more important? So I could see that what could happen is that, a person makes a choice and then they have to say, well, I made the best choice. They couldn't just say it's a choice, right? But almost any of those could work for a changeling character. An argument can certainly be made for a changeling choosing the path of art, because in some ways, changing form could be considered to be an art form. But then changing form is also a part of life sciences. Experiencing what different forms will be like. You certainly would be, it makes sense that there'd be an introduction. You'd want to be introduced to all of them, right? That would make a lot of sense, that at an introductory level, you would experience all of them. But then, just like any other academic field in real life, there's a tendency to specialize. If you want to be really good at something, you can't be good at everything. That was kind of trite, but in some ways, I think true. I think that analogy that you're making there makes a lot of sense. It does. Okay. These melee guys are now finished. Okay. Or at least they're finished as well as I can get them to be finished at my skill level, except for the bases. And so I should just set them here so they can be not seen very well because you're looking at them from the top down. Okay. What I'm painting now are just the arrow points. The arrow points on the archers. And then I'm going to wash the bows, and that will be a dramatic transformation in their appearance. See what I mean when I get to it. I don't know. Why do you think that you're sticking with the math one? Maybe you just find it more exotic, more challenging, more interesting. Just a more interesting way of trying to describe a character's development using the math school. I squeezed out like a million times more paint than I needed. Okay, the brown wash kind of worked on the quivers. I'm okay with how that turned out. That's an okay thing. It's always good when something's okay. You're not really sure if it's going to be. On today's stream, you're intimidated by the speech one? I think, well, if you're intimidated by it, dive into it and see what happens. No, explain why you're intimidated by the speech one. That might be, it might be a sign of it. Just maybe that's the kind of challenge that we would like to have. Oh, but that's different. Okay. Whether you think that your speech is good or not is different than the exploration of the power of speech. And if you, and even if you think that your speech isn't very good, that would be yet another a basis for exploring it. Does that matter? Does that matter in terms of the power or effectiveness of your speech? Whether you think it's good or not. I think that would just that would just be an interesting thing to look at. But the math one, you know, especially since you have this love-hate relationship with math, I think that would be really interesting to pursue that. Okay. Now the wash I'm putting on this, actually, should show you what I'm talking about. No, I'm not. Sorry. The things I was going to show you are some of the dungeon tiles that we've done, and they're over there. There's my finger over there, meaning I would have to reach over what I'm working on now. And if I knock over these archers, I'm going to break a bow, bop it into one of the melee guys, break a sword. That would just be awful. So I'm going to try to not do anything awful here and not break things. Yeah. Um, that's interesting that all they do is they're talking all the time. That actually seems almost counterintuitive that one could do an intense study of language and the effectiveness of language, okay, and never talk. I think, I'm not sure why, constantly rattling on about stuff would have to be a characteristic of that school. This is a pretty dark, excuse me, but it changes the appearance of the wood, okay, dramatically. You can see it, that versus that right there. Okay, it's got some red in it, it's got some brown in it, makes it darker, it makes it look rich. Looks like really expensive wood now, as opposed to whatever that is. I like it to be a little bit streaky, so it has a little bit of a no. Why would that? What would he do? Buy the entire Wizards of the Coast thing? Isn't that who owns it now? Okay, I'm not sure I even want to tell anybody about that. Okay. Well, thanks for joining in. I really appreciate it. And probably see you on Wednesday. And maybe you can tell me more about the development of your ideas here for the Changeling Wizard. But yeah, thank you. So see you on Wednesday. Have a good day. I appreciate you stopping in. Sir is always really good in chat. It's really interesting. I don't, if you're listening to this as a podcast, you can't see what they've been typing, but they're really into character development, and probably should be a storyteller or a story writer. Here's sort of a before and after of the bow. You can see sort of maybe on camera how much different it looks once the wash is put on it. It really brings it alive. Should be using a slightly different brush for this, but I'm not. Should be using a little larger brush. But I won't because I've already started. What I started the same way I started it. So I enjoy when Enforcer comes on. I hope you all do too, because they have some really good ideas about character development and just interesting conversations about how that would go. They had been playing in a D&D game for quite a while, but has been interrupted by just stuff that's been happening to the players in their lives. And that kind of thing happens too. I appreciate anybody who's been sticking with this stream today. Oh, look, I'm sort of on camera. Yeah. I'm looking at something up close. I can't really see the monitor that well. Everything just looks black on the monitor. I don't know if you're seeing any of these colors at all, or if it's the monitor or just the way the light is shining on the monitor. I don't know what you are seeing or how it compares to what I'm looking at. But it's like all the colors are gone and it's just dark. I think there's a lot of light on it, especially from the ring light here. So if you're not seeing anything other than me brushing dark on dark, I apologize for that. Like I said, what I'm seeing hopefully is not what you're seeing, because then you're not seeing much of anything at all. If that made any sense, kind of. I was away last week because of the in the U.S. the Thanksgiving holiday and the prep and the cleanup, and it turned into a big 5-day weekend kind of. And I'm going to be streaming all week this week. Not all week. I'll be streaming on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this week. But streaming all week. I'd never have a chance to eat or sleep or anything, right? Because that would be all week. But on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 10 until 1, I will be streaming, but I will be gone next week because of a family trip. And it's just, things are just going to be a little bit ragged through the holidays as family stuff comes up and other life activities come up and stuff like that. So just to try to give you a heads up on my calendar, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, including today, which is the Monday part of the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I will be doing the stream, and then I will be away next week, and then I'll be back again, and hopefully be able to get back on schedule at least until the Christmas, New Year's holiday comes up, and then I haven't planned that far ahead yet. I'll just be honest, I haven't planned that far ahead yet in terms of like even what day of the week these things are on. So I can't tell you anything about it until I, catch up with reality here and figure out what days I'll be streaming. Maybe I'll just tell you like the week ahead of time. That's probably good enough, right? Okay, what's left on these archers is the silver embellishment of the armor. And I will show to you. I'm not going to show you. I can't show you. You're somewhere else out there, maybe watching this or listening to it. So I can't show you, but I can show to you. And if you're not watching, but you're listening, I can describe it for you. It's going to be happening with the armor by showing to you the ones I've done already, the melee guys. This armor is even more intricate. Well, it's actually about the same, except for the knee pads. Yeah, I mean, it's the same level of way too much embellishment. And I'm not going to be able to pull that off with the silver paint. I'll show to you the melee guys who are over here, and then start to describe what needs to happen with the archers. Okay, there's some brushes. So as you can see, I hope, there's shiny stuff on them. Okay. And the armor print has all sorts of raised surfaces that are squiggles and wiggles and cross hatches and stuff like this. And I picked some out and I put the silver paint on them more or less neatly. After touching up, it looks okay. Okay, but you can see that there's a big difference then. I'll just bring an archer up in the appearance, right? All of a sudden, this is a lot brighter and fancier looking. And if you can see it, there's all sorts of raised surfaces on the archer's armor as well. Not quite in the same way. The patterns are different. And I'm going to try to, the only thing that's the same are the boots, I guess. The boots are pretty much the same. And I'm going to try to capture some of that, especially around the edges, okay, the edges of the armor, and then some of the internal detail as well, as much as I can. Not sure I'm going to mess with the helms with these, though. I don't know. But as much as I can, and then these will look a lot like this. They'll look a lot brighter and more interesting. The melee, the 3 melee figures are done. I just need to paint the bases, and I'm going to do all 6 of them at one time once I'm done with the silver embellishment. I've got about 20 minutes left. I'm getting cold this time. You all know this. by the time we get to this time of the stream, my focus changes a little bit, and I knock things over, and it's just, if I tried to paint the silver now, it would, what it would turn into. It would just turn into a huge mess. So I'm not going to. I'm going to start Wednesday. Wednesday will be starting with the silver embellishment on these figures. And then I'll be doing green touch-up, of course, because I'll get silver where I don't want it. And then I'll paint the bases. And so I'll be able to finish these minifigs, all 6 of them, on Wednesday. Okay, that will be how that will go. What will I do with the rest of the stream? There's 2 things I want to do. One is I want to show you our dungeon tiles and talk about dice and dungeons a little bit. Just move these up. I'm going to reach over something, and I hope that this goes okay. No, mostly okay. These are our dungeon tiles in the stream, as I repeat frequently, but we'll do frequently yet more. Yes, that's the other thing that happens near the end of the stream, is I start not speaking well. Start speaking not well? Start gibberishing? Okay, these are our dungeon tiles. We print them on the printer back there. There are modifications of some other things that were done. Our DM has done an excellent job of designing these so that they have several really important features. One is that the wall part, the vertical part, and the horizontal part are printed as one solid piece, and our printers were able to do that. I was really kind of surprised at how well that pulled off, which means that they're very strong. It's vertical, 90-degree angle. It's all very nice. And then we prime them and paint them and paint the detail on. And these usually are washed. I put a gray wash on these to make them look weathered and worn. And then these represent wood. You can see I use the same wood combination colors as on the bow here. That's the inspiration for the bow, is that kind of flat beigey brown, but with the wash on it, then it picks up the wood grain really nicely. So these are primed and then base coated in that brown and then washed. And then the stucco rectangles are hand painted in separately. And just that's how that works. And the really cool thing about these tiles is that underneath them, under these plates, I don't know why that one's got paint all over it, but under these plates are ball magnets in the corner, and they stick to each other like that, so that we can rearrange them very quickly, take them apart, put them together, move them around. They hang on to each other. They're really they look great in our show. We're able to build all sorts of things. They come with features like doors that open. Okay, painted the metal on there, detail and all of that. So that's pretty cool. We also have specialty tiles. And since I'm showing them off, I'm just going to show those as well. Some really cool stuff that we can do with our dungeon tiles. Like we can make a fire mage layer, and the cauldron is printed on, okay, and then painted, and then sigils are printed onto the wall, and we can hand paint those, and then they look really nice like that with that combination of colors. And then the little magnet goes in the hole here, and then there's a flame, and you say, the fire mage goes, make fire, or flame on, or poof, or whatever. And then poof, there's a flame in the cauldron. And Yeah, one other one that I want to show you is this is pretty cool. This is a trap tile. So you can see, I guess it's a little chipped. Okay. This one's been around for a while. As you're walking through the corridor, just walking along, not paying attention to much of anything. And then the DM decides to be mean and says, you have triggered a trap. And the way this tile works is you can't see the trap. Okay. It looks just like the other tiles, but trap triggered, it turns around, and then there's this plate and fire hits you. And then you're burned. So this is good for gameplay and for the show, in that depending on how the camera angle and everything is set up, you can't tell there's a trap there. The players can't see it either until it's actually triggered. And then it's really easy to show it. You don't have to replace a tile or anything. You just flip it around. And there it is. I like that. So far, we haven't run into one of those in our show yet. And we have flames. This one is just yellow at the moment. What I'm going to do on Wednesday is we're practicing different ways of trying to make these look more flamey. Okay. It's just, instead of just plain yellow, I'm going to get some bright reddish orange paint and touch the flame, the tips of the flames, and see how it looks. So I'll be doing that on Wednesday. I'll be like getting an alligator clip or something to hold this, and I'll just be spending a little bit of time touching it to see how it looks. Thanks for watching today. This is Dice and Dungeons. Our primary purpose is our Dungeons and Dragons show, which streams with a live chat on Sundays at 2. And you can catch previous episodes as a podcast or, of course, on YouTube. And if you want to watch them on YouTube, you maybe can become a YouTube subscriber. That would be terrific. So, yeah, I want to just give a big plug, shout out for our Dungeons and Dragons show, and invite, cajole, beg, I don't know, whatever it takes to persuade you all to catch it, and I hope enjoy it. And then this stream started, well, you saw the dungeon tiles, started by doing this, painting minifigs and dungeon tiles for our show. And it's continuing to do that because that's what I'm doing here and have been for the last week or so. Is getting things ready for our show. Because we're going to run into these guys. They're adversaries. They don't like our party. I mean, yeah, we did steal some things. Well, no, we recovered some things that they had stolen. We recovered some things from them. And anyway, they're upset. So we're going to run into these guys and a couple of other things that I painted last week. And when I don't have dungeon tiles or minifigs, I will be working on a model, like the Apollo model or what I'm working on at the current moment. Well, no, that's not true. I'm not doing it right now. It's not the current moment. What I'd be doing on the stream, if I'm not painting minifigs or dungeon tiles, is working on the Porco Rosso Savoia S21. I have a model of that, and I'll just move the camera over. That's part of the interior of the plane. A lot of detail on that. That's been kind of fun to put together. I'll be going back to that probably in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I've got finished this week on these guys, and I have some other scatter pieces that need to be done. Some rocks that need to be made to look like rocks. So I'll be playing around with washes and speckles and things on those, maybe starting Wednesday and finishing up on Friday. So yeah, be finishing up the minifigs that will be going on to our show. I'll be doing that on Wednesday. And then on Friday, doing some other sort of set pieces for our show as well, and then maybe returning in a small way toward the Savoya model. I'm going to wrap up a little bit early today because I have run out of things that I can really get done today. I could work on the flame maybe, but that I don't think that would really be I just don't want to. I don't feel like it. So there. And I am getting really chilly. It's cold down here today. It's really ironic that I'm like 8 feet away from the furnace that is heating the rest of the house, but there isn't a vent in this room. There isn't a vent in the room where the furnace is, and you certainly don't want the furnace venting where it is because, that would be a bad idea. So on Wednesday, I'm going to be wearing a down vest to try to stay warm for the entire 3 hours. As a reminder, I'll just keep reminding everybody, I'm not going from 10 until 2, so when you see the thing that says from 10 until 2, that is a lie, okay? I am going from 10 until 1, generally without a break, instead of going from 10 until 2 with an overly long break in the middle. And that seems to be working better. I seem to get more stuff done. I'm just going to keep continuing that. And maybe someday, I don't know. I can't promise. I'll just, bother our tech people who know what they're doing to maybe change the screen for this thing, the schedule that says that this is from 10 until 1 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Oof. I'm worn out. My back is stiff. My fingers are cold. I am whining and complaining. Old people get to whine and complain. We can do that. It is permitted. And I did that. So now I'm done with it. Thanks everybody for joining in. I really appreciate the time that you've taken to join here. I'll be finishing up the Tashir'anun on Wednesday and moving on to a couple of other little things for our show. And I hope to see everybody then. 10 o'clock, 10 till 1, Wednesday and Friday yet this week. See ya. Bye.